What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this video I'm gonna do a story time because I put a poll on my community board asking if y'all want me to start doing story times, and going by the votes, I guess that's a yes. So I'll be doing a Throwback Thursday story times, but I'm just posting this one today just to get it started. And I just feel the need to do this because it kind of helps you to connect, with people, and y'all have been so supportive and so caring, and I love reading y'all's comments, and y'all just don't know how much it helps me. And it really helps to know that you can talk to people, because a lot of what I'm going to be sharing in this story is something that I haven't even shared with family members or close acquaintance. So this was not easy to really talk about, even though it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And again, I just want to appreciate y'all for being so loving and supportive of me and this channel and this journey. But there's way more to my life other than just the narc abuse, and I just want to share some things with y'all so that y'all can get a more deeper understanding of who I am. So I'm just go ahead and jump into it. This story time is titled "The Day My Mother Died." Now, a lot of y'all may know that my mother passed away, and you may think that she passed away recently, but she did. My mother passed away in 1993, and sometimes I get confused as to how old was I when she passed. But I think I was 18 years old when my mother passed, because she passed in September of 1993. My birthday is in July. So I had already turned 18, and I get it confused with the time that I took off from being in school. When I was a senior, I was 17 and 18. I mean, I was, 17 and 18 because I graduated 1994. I really didn't graduate on time, but I was set to graduate. But when my mother passed, that just threw everything off as far as me in school. So yes, so the day my mother died, I think I'm going to change the title to "The Day I Found My Mother Dead." So I'm going to go deep, and this might be long because it's a backstory to that. It started in 1993. We were living in some apartment complex, and the apartments were set to shut down. So we were all given the notice that we had like 30 days to move. And as we were in the process of moving and everything, I noticed that my mother had just started to become very stressed out. And it was just like she was feeling like she didn't have anyone to kind of help her to move our things from that place to another. And I, just like my mom, I'm very settled. Like, I can stay in one place for a long time. I don't like to move around from place to place to place. But her plans were, it was like she was feeling like life is going too fast, and she hadn't accomplished the goals that she had set for us as her two children. So it was just like she started to feel discouraged and doubting herself. That took a toll on her mental health, and it made her go into a depression during the time that we were, had to be in a hurry to move. So it was like she didn't have a plan set at that moment. And when that came about, we just had to up and hurry up and move. And she really wanted better for us. She really did. She really struggled. She really did what she can to get by, and she really took really good care of us. She worked a full-time job at a school. She had been at that school for like 2 or 3 years, I believe. And she was proud of herself, and we was happy for her and everything. And another thing, my mother was illiterate. She could not read. I was teaching my mother to read. She knew how to write, but she couldn't read. And it was something to me. It really made me feel good to see how happy my mother was. It was bringing her joy when we would have them sit down moments at the kitchen table, and I was teaching her how to read. It's like she was catching on real fast, so, and I really wanted to finish and accomplish that with her, but she took sick as we were moving. Once we got settled in a new place, my mom had always been the type that refused to go to the doctor, never wanted to check on her health. She just wanted to nurse herself and not worry people. And she would heal her, nurse herself in peace, and people wouldn't know about it. For a long time, people in the family were saying stuff like she needed to go to the doctor because she was losing a lot of weight and it could be cancer. And she was a smoker for a long time. When my mother died, she was 52, and she told me that she had started smoking at the age of 17 years old. So I remember it was like a weekend, because I'm trying to see, it was September 19, 1993 when she died. That was either a Monday or a Tuesday. So it was the weekend. I know she said that she was going to take off from work a couple of days because she wasn't feeling well. She didn't have the strength. And so she didn't go to work for a couple of days. When that weekend set in, I noticed that her sickness was taking a toll on her, so she couldn't even really get out of the bed for a full day. So she kind of just laid around a lot. And we did everything for her. Mind you, again, my sister and I, we were used to her just being that way. So it wasn't nothing that was shocking to us, to see her just kind of lay around because, if she had a bad cold at times, she would do that. So to us, this was no different from any other sickness. But she had started to lose a lot of weight. And as that week started, I remember it was one night, my sister and I was in the living room. We was on the floor playing Trouble. And, the game Trouble, which you push the little bubble thing in the middle and the dice in the middle, it gives you a number and you move your little colors around going by that number until you make it back to that spot. And that was one of my favorite games. That's still to the day one of my favorite games, Trouble. We were watching David Letterman that night. I think it was called A Late Show. And my mom was in the room and she was like, y'all don't be up too late. So I'm thinking it was a school night because that's the only time she would say that. If she didn't, it's because she's already dozed off and she don't know we're still up. So we would lower the TV so she would know that we're still up. And so she came in the living room that night. She had on a pink gown and her hair was hanging. She never had her hair hanging, at night. It would always be rolled with a scarf on. So she came in the living room and we were sitting on the floor playing a game. And she sat down and said, what are y'all doing? Y'all still up playing this game? Can I play? And me and my sister looked at each other laughing because that's just not something we was used to getting from her. That's not the way she would talk. If anything, she'll look in the living room. I told y'all to, not to be up too late. Now turn that TV off and go to bed. You got school in the morning. She would say stuff like that. But she would not come in and want to play with us, Not that time of night. Any other time in the middle of the day over the weekend, yeah. But it was just like I noticed something about her appearance when I really looked at her as we were laughing and stuff. I noticed that not only she was letting her hair hang, it was so long, black, and fine. She had very fine hair. And I always, wanted her to just let her hair hang just long and not always curly. So I seen her, to see her in that image, it was like, she was just so pretty to me. And my mom always said like a resting face that would look like that. And I even look like that. And it's like, but her resting face didn't look like that this time. It was more like at peace. She really just looked at peace, like. And so she still wasn't feeling that well, but she was well enough to come in there. And it was like she just wanted to sit down and have fun with us for the moment. And so we played the game for a little while. And then she was like, okay, I'm about to go ahead on the bed. So my sister was like, I'm going to bed too. And then I went to bed. And normally when I go to bed, I'm not going to sleep. I'm on the phone. And, at that time we had a house phone, so I went on the bed. And it was like in the wee hours of the night, probably 1 or 2 in the morning. My sister ran to the room and I dozed off. I went to sleep. And she ran to the room and got me. And she was like, we called my mom by her name. She said, Rose, something wrong with Rose. And I'm like, what? And she said, come and help me with Rose. She trying to go to the bathroom and she could hardly walk. So I ran and I was like, Rose, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she was like, just take me to the bathroom. I just need to go to the bathroom. And I was like, you want us to call an ambulance? She was, no, don't call nobody. So my sister, because we had an aunt that lived not too far from us down the way. My sister was like, you want me to go get, and she was saying, no, I'm all right. Just take me to the bathroom, and she was like kind of hesitating to talk. So we took her to the bathroom. I ran her bath water. My sister, because she wanted to take a bath. And that was odd because she already had a nightclub when she went to bed, So she was like, I just want to take a bath. And I just found it, but we wasn't really thinking. It's just like we just wasn't really thinking. So we brought her to the bathroom, ran her bath water. She got in the tube. She said, y'all go head back to bed. I'm all right. And I'm like, you sure? She was like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm like, why you want to take another bath? So my sister had brought her more night clothes in. And we went back to bed. But it was on my mind. It just was on my mind, like, what's wrong with my mama? Like, and I just never seen her like this, so weak, so she can't even go to the restroom. And it was on my mind, like it scared me, like it was shock. So my sister went to sleep. I fell asleep. And it's like, okay, I'm laying, all my intentions were to get back up to check her before I fell into a deep sleep. But I went into a deep sleep. And what woke me up was like hearing her. I just heard a voice, like a deep sigh. And that woke me up, and it was daylight. And it was a weekday. So with us being up that time, and like we forgot to set the clock, and like we just dismissed the alarm clock that would get us up for school. So my sister was still asleep. I jumped up and I went in the living room And she had dressed, she had got her other night clothes on, and she was laying on a sofa. And her head was tilted back. And I could just tell that she had passed. She had the O-shaped mouth, and her head was tilted back. And she was looking out the window, but she was still looking like she was in peace. And it was like the sunshine light was coming in, and it was like glazed right down on her eyes. And I was just like, Rose, wake up, wake up. And I know she had passed. It was like her last breath is what woke me up that morning. So my sister heard me just hysterically screaming her name and just like panicking, not knowing what to do. My sister got her, ran into the living room. She was crying, and we called her, wake up, wake up. She ran out the house and went down and got my aunt while I called the ambulance. And after that, it was just like, while we waited for the ambulance to come, and my aunt wasn't in, she was just crying and calling my mom's name. She was like, what happened? What happened? Like, she just was feeling bad last night, and she could hardly go to the bathroom. And after that, she told us to just go to bed. And I went to sleep, and when I woke up, I was just like, I didn't know this was going to, like, I was just blaming myself for it. Like, why didn't I wake up? Why didn't I wake up? And after the ambulance came, and they was, just trying to bring her back and stuff like that, I remember my sister, she went to the other edge of the couch, and she was just praying and praying and praying. And I was just like, she gone, she gone. And the way that they were looking at me, they were looking at me like, like she'd already passed. So when they took my mom out in the ambulance, we got in the back of the ambulance. My sister, my aunt, and them, they got in a car and followed us to the hospital and everything. But she had passed, because when we made it to the hospital, I remember the doctor with a long white coat on. He walked out to us, when they let you know it's nothing they could do, the person passed. And he came straight to me, and I just was hugging him. And he was just holding me, and the rest of the family, that made it up to the hospital, they was crying. My sister was crying, and the nurses had my sister and everything. And so we were all just up there, like in this family room that they take you in, like a conference room, to talk to you. And after some time, probably an hour or so went by, it was like, you want to go in the room and see your mom. And when we walked in, I just couldn't believe that my mom was gone. And how things just happened so fast. Like, I just couldn't believe that. And that's something that I never get out of my head. So as time went by, it's like I tried to just be in denial about it. We went to stay with family, my mother's other sister. My mom did have an insurance policy to where if anything happened to her, my aunt would be the beneficiary, the prime beneficiary, and I would be the secondary. So by me getting ready to turn 18, or had already turned 18, now everything would be turned over to me. So it was all put in my hands to take care of the funeral and everything. But my aunt wanted to help me with this. She did. She wanted to do it all. And I didn't want any help. I was putting it out of my mind in denial, like nothing had happened. And weeks had went by, and family was still like, what's going on with the funeral? When is the funeral? And as we were staying with other family members, all I wanted to do is just go to work. I just wanted to do something to stay busy. And my sister was missing school. I had completely dropped out of school just to work and help to pay bills while living with them. And my aunt was like, it can't be like this. So some of the family started to argue, like, these children, and if my sister was still here, it wouldn't be like this. They need to be in school. You shouldn't be worried about working, paying bills. You didn't have to worry about that when Rose was here, stuff. They was going at it. I tuned it out, and I just wanted to just get more and more and more work hours. Mind me, I was leaving behind my sister, who had also just lost her mother at 12. And it was like she needed me. But I just needed to just like get away from reality. I just wanted to create my own reality, like if none of this was going on. I never really deal with my mother's death the way I should have. I didn't even want to accept it. I didn't accept it. So it was almost a month. My mother died September 19th. I didn't bury my mother till October 22nd of that year, because I wanted to just not, deal with it at all. When I went to set the funeral arrangements, a lot of family had turned their back on me, like, we don't even know if we're going to go to the funeral because this is ridiculous. No funeral should hold the body that long and stuff like that. And I was just like, well, I don't care anyway. I just want it to be quick. So my cousin and I, we rode the city bus to go to the funeral home to take the clothes. So I just pulled out some clothes that my aunt was like, you wanted to wear this or that? I just took some clothes. We took the clothes up to the funeral home on the city bus. And I remember the funeral director was like, he just knew that it was something about me that just wasn't, it just didn't sit well with him. And he was just like, I'm going to keep in touch with you, and I'm going to, we're going to, how the funeral directors, they make you feel comfortable, and they assure you that you're making the right decision to choose their funeral home, and they're gonna do everything to comfort the family. And so I was like, well, it don't matter. I just wanted to, just let the funeral be quick. I don't care if nobody show up. I just want to get this over with. So the man, it was like he noticed, I wasn't taking this well. I wasn't responding to my mother's death as a person should. So we went in a room and we were talking, and it's like he just wanted to take care of everything for me. So he did. He just did the whole funeral, everything free. And my mother did have an insurance, but the money, it was taking a while to come. And a funeral back then was, that funeral was like $3,000 back then. And she had a policy for like $10,000, $15,000 or $20,000. So he was like, we just going to take care of everything. You don't have to worry about nothing, because I really sympathize with you and your sister. And his wife was like, I would love to come and see y'all sometime. And they just wanted to take us under their wings. And I was just like pushing people away and just didn't want to deal with it. So the funeral came, and I remember at the beginning, as we got ready to walk in, they were saying, y'all, for me and my sister to go in and see my mom first. So I went in and went up to the casket, and I kissed her. And she was ice cold, like ice. And my sister kissed her, and she was just bawling in tears. She couldn't even stand up. So I had to be strong for her, and I'm holding my sister, and we sitting on that front row right in front of how the casket is. The other families start to make it, people from work. So people had found out about the funeral, and it was getting pretty packed in there. But I still just wasn't there. As the preacher was preaching, I noticed and I know that it wasn't my mom really crying, but I noticed a tear coming out in her face, and I seen that the way they embalmed her, that look she had that night when she sat on the floor just playing the game, that's how she looked in the casket, so pretty and at peace. But that tear was coming, and I remember my aunt leaned over and say, she's crying, but that's happy tears. She glad to see y'all again, and that kind of broke me down, but I was still holding back. So the people the ushers, they took me and my sister out. And then as the funeral went on, so as the day went by, we went to the graveyard. I didn't go to my mom's grave. They were like, y'all could sit in the car. You don't have to go to the grave. And my sister, she just couldn't. She just was completely undone. And we stayed in that family car. We didn't get out to go to the grave. And, after that, it took years, probably 10 years later, before I visited my mother's grave for the first time. And when I visited my mother's grave for the first time, I think I had kids by then, because I took them with me, And yeah, I just wanted to share that story with y'all, just so y'all could know what I went through when my mother passed away. But what I really went through, and I never really knew I was going through, it was shock and trauma. And so that trauma, I never dealt with it. I never seen counseling. I never allowed myself to open up and talk about it with anyone. But I do remember going back to the family's house and just working and paying bills and stuff like that. And another family member was a teacher, and she was like, my sister could come and stay with her to get her back on track with school, and she would homeschool her, if that's okay with you. And I was like, yeah. So my aunt was like, let's go to the courts, and I'm going to give you the full custody of your sister. So we went and did that, and it was all good. It was a smooth transition. It's all his family. So when that happened and my sister was gone for a while, I found myself being alone, and I decided to, I just felt like I never really had the connection I needed with people. And I know a lot of it was because I was pushing people away, but I really didn't feel that connection with people in a family. But so with that, I decided to just make an announcement and let them know I'm going to start looking for my own place. And that was before I turned 19. This was Christmas of 2009. This was Christmas of 1993. So my cousin and I, we were like, we're going to go job hunting and find us a second job so we can make a whole lot of money, and we're going to roommate. We're going to find us an apartment and be roommates. So the family got woofed. They're like, that's wrong for you to just up and leave. Your mom's money haven't even come in yet. It had become a money thing. And everybody was just yanking me back and forth. Don't, come stay with me, because they knew my mom's money was going to be coming soon from the insurance policy. And I was like, well, when the money come, even if I'm on my own, I'm going to give y'all something because y'all was there for me, And, as far as letting me stay there. But that wasn't good enough for them. It's like they just couldn't take my word. And so they had their little meeting, and I was still asleep one morning. I didn't have to work that morning. I remember my cousin came in. He was younger, a little bad little boy. He ran in the room and said, they having everybody talking about you and saying that you got to find somewhere to go. And so I went over to where everyone was, because the family they had houses around the block, so I walked halfway around the block to the house where everybody was that morning having breakfast and talking about me. So I went there, and they had already come to the decision like they was going to just stop talking to me because they had found out that I wanted to move out on my own. This was right before Christmas, right after Thanksgiving. And so when it happened, when I came in the house, everybody left out the house. My sister, she had ran out with the rest of the kids, and they was just out playing. You know, they're kids. They wasn't thinking nothing of it. But I knew, like, dang, y'all talking behind my back. I'm not even here to defend myself. And nobody was talking to me. Like, nobody was just talking back to me. And imagine how they feel. Mind you, my mother died in September. I just had buried her in October. I really wasn't dealing with it well. And it was just so much balled up inside of me. So after that had happened, everybody left out the house and went back to the house and stuff. So I'm still in there with one other family member. And I was like, you fix some coffee this morning? She ignored me. When normally it's, I got coffee. You come and get some coffee before I head to work? We would drink coffee, or both go to work at the same time, or I would come and give me a cup of coffee before we go. I was drinking coffee back then. But she ignored me. She went on to the kitchen. And she was talking from the kitchen. And I remember standing in the living room by the front door. And she was like, well, the family decided to let y'all go stay somewhere else. Y'all got to find somewhere to go because they saying that you talking about you going to move out on your own. And I don't think that's right that you've been staying with us this long, you know, staying with mom and them this long. That's my aunt. And, you know, you just going to up and leave when your mama money about to come in. My mama money. Any other time it's like my aunt or my auntie. But now it's so cold and separated. And as she's talking from the kitchen, I remember her walking back out the kitchen, and I just said, where am I going to go? And I just broke down. And that was the breakdown that I needed from the moment when my mother passed, when I never allowed myself to feel anything and just to, you know, let it all out. That's what I needed. I broke down to my knees, and she got down on the floor with me, holding me and saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Shame on us. And she was like, God forgive us. God forgive us. And she was just saying, I'm so sorry. She was calling me by my nickname, Niecy. She was like, I'm so sorry, niece. I'm so sorry. It's so wrong of us to be like this. And she said, Lord, help me, Lord. This child, Lord, forgive me, Lord. This child's hurting, you know. Lord, forgive me. My auntie gone, and look how we've been acting towards y'all. That's all I can remember her saying. So I was finally feeling like, I finally felt embrace from the family that I needed, and not just a regular, okay, you can come and stay with us. You know, I was finally feeling comfort and support from just her. And I just broke down. I was just done at that moment. You know, I was. And that's how I dealt with my mom's death back then, you know, in that moment that I broke down. And so, after that, she said, I tell you what, you could come in and stay with me, bring all your stuff with you. And well, she said my sister's name. I'm not going to say her name. She was like, y'all can come and stay here with me, or I'm going to talk to everybody and just let them know we was wrong and we shouldn't have, it was wrong what we did, you know. We're not going to throw you away because we family. And my aunt will be turned over in her grave if she know that this was happening, you know, and stuff like that. And so we just said, and I just finally was able to get some words out. And that was it. But from that moment, I really had started feeling like I just can't trust nobody. And I felt like, Lord, I got to go through this life now pleasing everyone. So as time went by, my mama's money had came. And I was just issuing money out. For what? Just giving money out to people, giving money out. And they wasn't satisfied. They still wasn't satisfied with the money that I was giving them for my mother's insurance when I could have taken it and moved. I still could have just moved and been on my own. But they were making me feel guilty, like I still owed them something. And I really didn't owe them nothing, you know. So the thing about it is, after all that time had went by, I decided to go ahead on and move. But I moved because I was working in a shoe department in Kmart. I was well known for working in that department. And it's like people just loved me and embraced me, and they're like strangers. People loved me in Kmart shoe department. It was like a department off to itself, and it was really not even owned by Kmart. What people don't know is that the shoe department in Kmart was for another company, you know. And when we got paid every Friday, we went to the back by the cash department. It was a payroll department in Kmart. And they would give us our money. You know, you hit a little cash machine in the back. The woman would pay us our money out the window in a little brown envelope. You know, but the other people, they had to get a paper check. You know, our check was just written out on the envelope, this much, federal taken out, state taken out. And that's it. And people used to say, you get paid in cash, you're not going to be able to get taxes back. That was a lie. I was able to file taxes, and I was able to file, you know, use my sister as a dependent because I had custody of her and I was taking care of her. You know, they had a problem with that. They felt like when I got my taxes, I owed them something. Even when I had moved into my own place, it was always about money. And it was always about what I could get from her to make her know that I'm there. But they really wasn't there. Like I wasn't feeling it in the heart. And so it's just like as more time went by and stuff, that next year had came. I was about to turn 19, and one of the ladies came in the store. She lived in some apartments that they used to manage. She was the manager of these apartments. And she was like, "You're related to and your mother passed away. And yeah, and I always see you and your sister. I always see you and your sister around the way. And y'all some good kids." And people would always be saying that to us. That's why I say you never really know who watching you. And people just want to take us under their wings. Even the neighbors over there, they would be like, "Psst," when you're walking down the street. Or if you're going to the disc cup lady house, they would, and just love on you. And they don't even know you. See, God put people there in your life. It don't have to be a relative. He gonna put the right people there for you. But we didn't know no better then. We just wanted to continue living life and just, letting things, just accepting things for what it is. We didn't know no. I wasn't thinking like that back then. So when the woman come in and she was like, if you think you can handle being on your own, I say I can, because I'm looking for a place. That's how I know it was meant to be, because I had been talking about that. I just didn't have the time off from work to really go look for a place. She said, "I'm the manager at such and such apartments. I'm about to move out. It's the master apartment on the end. And, I would love to turn it over to you and your sister." And Lord, I just could have cried in there. And I was like, and she told me how cheap the rent would be, and the utilities probably wouldn't be much of nothing for me, paying water, sewage, other things. It's just an add-on like cable and all that kind of stuff, telephone, because it wasn't no cell phones back then. So I was like, "I'll take it." And she said we should be moved out in a couple of weeks. It was right after New Year's of 1994. And mind you, I was still not back in school, and the school had been looking for me, and that was before they started the truancy thing, to where you can't be out of school too long, or someone's going to be held accountable and face criminal charges for keeping a child out of school. But they was like, "Well, we advise you to just go ahead on and get your GED, because you've been out way too long. And we got your transcripts. We can mail them over to whatever address and stuff like that." So they had got in touch with me. And that's when I was like, "I'm just go ahead and get my GED." And they just sent me a lot of stuff from school that I had paid for, because my mom, she did have a savings account, but she also had a safe with a lot of money in it. And we didn't know this, me and my sister. She would share a lot of things with me being the oldest, but I didn't know that, and come to find out, the sisters went in my mama's money and had taken out of her money. I'm like, they stole from my mama after she wasn't even gone a whole day. So we didn't get our hands on none of their money. But when we went back to clean out the house, the family all went there to clean out the house and move the stuff into storage. That ended up getting auctioned off, because I couldn't keep up with the storage bill, pay bills at their house, and then trying to get established in my own place. I just couldn't. My mother had a lot of antiques, and that's why I love antiques, because I grew up on it, and I really can appreciate the art of antiques. And a lot of it just gone, but I always have the memories of what she had. Memories of just being a child, period, and the things I grew up with, even through the struggle. And I mention this a lot on here, that my mom always got by. She survived. We still had a really good childhood. We still enjoyed ourselves as children. Things that I still, I hold it deep within me, that I really enjoy coming up. Those memories is what kind of, just keep me on the up and up. It keeps me going. It could put me in a good mood just to think about things that I had as a child, from teddy bears to Spider-Man. Like, I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was a child. I've been a Godzilla fan since I was, these are the toys I had. It's just like sentimental things is what really, just, it has a soft spot, and it'll always have a soft spot in my heart, but yeah, my mother had money stashed away. She sure did. And she did that. I feel like she had a plan for us. It was just like, sometimes I'll be thinking like, did she know she wasn't going to be here much longer? Sometimes that would come up. But for a long time, and I'm about to end this video, I blamed myself for my mother's death. And with that, it's hard to share that, because you don't want to be judged with people going to ask the number one question, why didn't you call the ambulance? And it just wasn't something that was crossing my mind. It just didn't. And the trauma from that, the shock from that, is what made, it's like I carried that trauma and that shock with me throughout my entire life, even after my children were born. That's what kind of, and being a people pleaser, so that people would love me and give me the comfort I needed, even though I was probably hard-shelled on the outside, because I felt like I needed to be strong at all times. Just that alone is what drawed people like the narc X to me, drawing other narcs in my life to me, because I always felt like I needed to be a certain way for people, and that's not really what I was needing. That's not what I needed. I needed more than that, and I couldn't just be myself because people would take advantage of that. But trauma is something that we really, once we recognize what it is, we really need to. Even now, sometimes I think about I still need therapy for not really dealing with it. Even now, I have my moments. I still have my moments where I break down because I'm always blaming myself for my mother's death. And if anything happened in my kid's life, I'm blaming myself like I wasn't a good parent. I'm constantly hard on myself and punishing myself for shortcoming things that may not, I probably didn't have control over, but I don't know. So that's why I wanted to share this with y'all, because it's good to know that people are willing to listen and be that support system that I've always needed. And even, if we never meet, I just feel like we have this close connection, that I've always needed, and again, that's just why it's always been hard for me to open up about that. I think about it all the time, almost every day, especially during those times where I really could use a mother figure. I really could use a support system, because you don't know what the future holds, and you just need people. You need somebody to talk to. And then, like a mother, you need your mother or your father. But my father wasn't in my life, so I could only speak on my mother. But yeah, so that's just the next thing I kind of want to talk about. Not really in a story time, though, but I want to talk about dealing with trauma and learning to understand trauma and shock and how to deal with it so that you don't carry that burden on throughout the rest of your life, because it can affect not only you in the long run, but your loved ones, your children. I've always wanted to set a schedule. Was always hard on myself with scheduling, even with my children. And sometimes I ask myself, Lord, did I do the wrong thing? Did I hurt them in some way by always wanting things to just be perfect and on time, because I didn't get that alarm that morning, because I didn't wake up in time enough before my mother took her last breath? Could I have saved her? Like, stuff like that always crosses my mind, like, all the time. So that's something that I still have to deal with, and just get clarity of it all. And I know I will, but it's gonna always be something that I live with. So I'm probably not going to put any ratings on this video, because I don't, it don't need to be rated up or down, but I will leave the comment section open. So I want to thank y'all for watching. And again, thank y'all for being so supportive of me and this channel and this journey, and leave y'all thoughts down below on this, and share your experiences dealing with death of a parent. And again, thank y'all for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.